Today, we're going to talk about card grading companies, but focus in on something that I think is super important that many people seem to forget or not really pay that much attention to. And that is the grader's ability to stand by their own work, right? Their ability to provide a guarantee to buyers and prospective customers. And it's an important one because it's something that many people seem to sort of brush aside. The main focus on which grader is best seems to lay on the fact of which one has the best resale value or which one has the best turnaround time, which one is the most consistent, which one has, the cheapest price points, all that sort of stuff. And whilst those are important, the guarantee element, I think, is head and shoulders above everything there, because as a collector, as somebody that wants to submit cards or as somebody that wants to buy cards, if the business can't stand by their own work, should we really be using them in the first place? And so many people, ignore that element, which I think is a bit, strange. And when I'm talking about a guarantee, I mean the business's ability, the grader's ability to stand by their own work. And that basically means, if they make a mistake and say a card is a 10 when it really should have been a 7, or, the card was fake or patch swapped and they didn't spot it, but they still slabbed it, they should be protecting buyers in that instance, and they should be standing by the fact that they made a mistake. And that would look like them reimbursing you if in fact they did make a mistake. And as a collector who has a number of cards that I want to have insured as an example, or I have that I want to send off, that is the most important thing. Because if I have something graded, right, or I want to get something graded, I want to be protected in that regard, because if I ever have to sell my collection one day, that gives me additional peace of mind. And it's something, like I said, that many people don't think about. And unfortunately, for people that use BGS as an example, BGS do not have a guarantee, and famously so, they've had a number of issues when it comes to grading, soccer cards, as we've talked to on this channel, right? If you've basically bought something in a BGS slab or you've had it graded, you're shit out of luck if they've made a mistake. And some people will say, well, what's the big deal? You've paid for a fee. It is what it is. Well, the big deal is that you've paid for a service. You've paid for their opinion. Their opinion should hold some weight. If they're not standing by their own opinion, why are people using them? Right? Why are people okay to sort of run the risk of being exposed like that, especially when these businesses are making the kinds of mistakes, especially when cards are worth what they are these days? People often flock to SGC, as SGC being a really affordable price point, but then also the fact that they have, tuxedo slabs, or they have a really open and transparent process. Their turnaround times are really super quick. Apparently they're super consistent. But even their guarantee isn't that explicit. It's hard to find information on their website. Yes, they do stand by their things, and they do refund buyers if they do in fact make a mistake, upwards of the market value of the card they made the mistake on. But it's pretty, muddy trying to find information on how their guarantee actually works. People then will talk about PSA being the best, for resale purposes, and they're the ones that the market wants in general. But, as you can see on screen right now, bring up their terms and conditions. Their guarantee works a little bit strangely. People are happy that PSA have a guarantee, but it's not as clear cut as you think. And this is something they've changed in the last 12 or so months, as I talked to in a video a few months ago. Essentially, their guarantee is somewhat limited in that the maximum guarantee you can get for a single card is $250,000, which, for most people is going to be fine, but for the high-end rollers, it's not going to be. And an individual is only capped at 500 grand. Meaning if you bought, 2 cards that have an issue for under 500 grand, you're fine. Then if you find a third that you've bought, you're screwed over. The other thing that's super interesting here is if you're the one that's submitting the card, the guarantee does not apply to you, which as a submitter is pretty piss poor in my opinion. And when people are talking about PSA being the best for resale and all that sort of stuff, okay, why is that still the case when something like this exists? If you're somebody that owns a lot of PSA slabs and you're the one that submitted them, are you going to be comfortable if something was to happen down the line that meant your stuff, isn't accurate? PSA made a mistake and now you're stuck with it. And if that does in fact happen to a lot of people, will PSA remain at the forefront of the hobby for resale value? It's just a weird one how people don't look at it through this lens. If I'm going to be submitting something to PSA, I want them to stand by what their own work is. And yes, I understand why they've got this, because they want to try and avoid people knowingly submitting them, fake cards, etc., to try and scam the system. But it's not a good guarantee in that regard, because how are you protecting collectors? It only protects you if you're out there buying cards and things like that, which I think is great. The fact that they're protecting, buyers, but if you're a submitter, if you're a collector like I am, this almost cancels PSA as a submission service, right? Because I want to submit my things, I want the protection. You can't give it to me, PSA. So what the heck is going on? The only company that I know that makes it crystal clear to protect submitters in, the instance of a guarantee is CGC. Because unlike PSA, they don't make a distinction between a submitter or a owner of the card. They make it available to everyone, which I think is super important because, as a collector wanting to submit things to have protected and get some sort of opinion back from a business they're willing to stand by, CGC is head and shoulders above everyone else in that regard. And they're also a business that, many people are hesitant with when it comes to card grading, but they've been around a long time from a comic book grading perspective that they've generated, a lot of credibility from. And yes, they do have their own issues similar to PSA. They get a lot of hate in the comic book community, but their guarantee goes above and beyond anything else that we get within this hobby. And I think that is, super important. Yes, as potential buyers, PSA protects you, right? From buying a slab, you're going to be protected, okay? You're going to have a guarantee applied to you if they've made a mistake. But as an owner of cards already, if you want to submit things, I think CGC is the way to go because their slabs look great. They protect, just as well as anything else. They are waterproof, unlike SGC. They also protect you from a guarantee perspective, which I think is the most important thing when you are submitting something to one of these businesses. Because I'm submitting something to protect me as an individual to get some sort of protection, right? I want to make sure that the card's authentic. I want to make sure that the patch wasn't swapped. I want to make sure that the grade is accurate. And yes, at the end of the day, who cares if the grade's accurate or not? Because I'm a collector first and foremost. But the protection they're giving me, the guarantee, I think is super important. And I've not yet submitted a card to CGC, but I've got a bunch of flawless soccer over there that I'm a bit hesitant keeping in one touch because I'm scared it might open up as an example. So I'm really tempted to sort of use them. And the guarantee element seems to be the thing that's going to swing it in their favor, because if I submit those to PSA, yes, I'll have a really good resale value approach. But, if something goes wrong, I'm shit out of luck because I won't be protected, right? And I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below because, like I said, so many people ignore this piece, which I think is the most important, especially if you are submitting cards yourself. Now, I mentioned CGC is the only one that, will protect their submitter. I believe SGC do as well, but their website, their T's and C's are sort of very hard to find information on. So it's sort of hard to give me comfort as a prospective buyer, not to mention the fact that their, slabs are not waterproof apparently. So please share your thoughts down in the comments below. And I should have opened with this, but at the end of the day, grade whoever you want to grade with, right? Grade whoever makes you feel comfortable. But just in my opinion, if you're wanting to get that added protection as a submitter, I think CGC is a no-brainer, right? You want to protect your slabs, you want to get that guarantee, it's a no-brainer. It's great that PSA have it, and I think PSA need to update their T's and C's, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's a real shame they're not protecting submitters, but they need to protect us, and it needs to be something that's normalized across the industry. The fact that BGS don't have one at all is disgusting, right? It's completely unacceptable, especially with the amount of mistakes they make. It's almost the reason why they shouldn't exist anymore, which is a sad thing to say because I used to like them the best out of everyone, 10 years ago, but it's not good enough that they don't have one. And then it should also be normalized that, the likes of SGC need to make it more clear on their website. Maybe it's specified somewhere. I feel like I've read it before, but, trying to find it before this video, I couldn't find any information on there aside from an FAQ that said, if you have an issue with your card, to contact them directly via phone call or email. It's not good enough. And I commend CGC for approaching it the way they do. And some people, again, will push back on CGC and say, well, they're new. What if they collapse? What good is the guarantee then? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, they've been around a long time from a comic book perspective. They've been around from a long time for everything else that they grade. I think they're going to be here for a long time within this hobby. And I think they're going to be, the dark horse that comes after PSA long term, in my personal opinion. As somebody that owns some cards and wants to submit them, I think that is the most important thing. That guarantee is the most important thing. I'll say it again, I'll repeat myself. That is the most important thing. And if you don't care about resale value or anything else, CGC is the way to go for that reason and that reason alone. So please share your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.